Welcome to the Family Beacon podcast from Minnesota Family Council with hosts Grace Evans and Moses Brattrud. Stay informed on the top stories on life, family, and religious freedom. Get the facts, stand for truth. Hello and welcome back to the Family Beacon podcast. My name is Grace Evans. I am here again with Moses Brattrud. So good to have you back on the podcast.
Yes, I missed last week.
It was a good edition of the Grace Evans show, as our producer calls it. It was actually so much fun because I just got to listen to the sound of my own sweet voice.
And you gave some amazing arguments to use when talking to people who don't share your views on abortion, which I honestly thought was really helpful.
Oh, thank you, Moses.
Yeah.
It was kind of an adapted version of my talk to lead students this summer. So I want to give you guys a rundown of what we'll be talking about on today's podcast. First of all, note, Moses and I are looking very fallish. Fall vibes.
Yeah.
Fall has hit Minnesota.
Definitely.
So he has this nice brown. I have this red. Red is honestly like such a good color. Anyways, okay, what are we talking about today is not clothes. Number one, we're going to be talking about our CEO's message to pro-life candidates. He wrote a really good piece that went live today, so we will give you a summary of that. And I will be discussing a pro-life banquet I recently attended this week, and there were some pro-abortion protesters outside, and I actually went and confronted them. So we'll talk about that.
I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, I had it on video too, so I'll have to play it for our audience.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing some new gender-neutral bathrooms at an elementary school in White Bear Lake, which is pretty shocking. And then we'll probably also talk about what we're reading if we have time. So let's go ahead and dive into our message, Minnesota Family Council's message to pro-life candidates. Moses, tell us what our message is.
Yeah, so if you've been following this election, you've seen that the left wants to make it all about abortion. Abortion, as far as we can tell, is the only issue on the ballot. I have gotten several mailers. It's only October 6th that we're filming this, but I've already got several big political mailers. I've seen countless TV ads, and all of them, whether they're attacking whichever Republican candidate they're attacking, they're all about abortion. They are putting all of their eggs in this basket, and I just think that's crazy. But Democrats, left-leaning, I shouldn't just say Democrats, it's left-leaning people, pro-abortion people. They think that they're going to win this election. They're going to win it on the abortion issue.
Yep.
I think they're wrong. Nobody knows right now. We'll find out in November. But so in the face of that onslaught, in the face of millions of dollars being spent on advertising, telling Minnesotans that such and such a candidate has a radical position on abortion, that they would try to ban abortion, et cetera, we want to help pro-life candidates. And I should say, this isn't just Republicans. We sent this to pro-life Democrats who are running for office in Minnesota. We sent them a message, and we want to help candidates communicate clearly and effectively about abortion. We don't want them to ignore the issue. We want them, because, for one thing, whatever district you go to, Grace, any part of Minnesota, a huge part of those people, those voters, are going to be pro-life. Is it going to be half? Is it going to be 75%? I don't know.
Especially once you get out of the metro area. I mean,
right.
Minnesota is shockingly pro-life once you get out of the Twin Cities.
Absolutely. So, and yeah, exactly.
And our recent polls, you should talk about the recent polls too.
Which one specifically?
The ones that are referenced in the message. Just about,
yes.
Yeah, you need to talk about those. That's really just encouraging to hear.
Right. So we wanted to provide candidates with some messaging tips, like how literally how to talk about this, but also just a reason why to talk about this. And one reason why to talk about this, as Grace mentioned, is that polls indicate most people do not support our crazy current abortion regime, where abortion is legal for any reason up until the moment of birth. So I'll give you the numbers, and this is reflected in two recent polls. One just a few weeks ago, and one from earlier in the year that had more explicit abortion-related questions. No, that's not quite true. They both had the explicit abortion-related questions, which is why we're using both these polls. In both polls, more or less, there is a slight difference. And the numbers I'm going to tell you from the more recent poll, 68.2% of Minnesotans support at least limits on abortion, if not an outright ban in most cases. And a plurality of Minnesotans support an outright ban in most cases. That's 41.4%. That's the largest single group of Minnesotans. They want it to be banned in most cases. And that's kind of crazy. It's so against the narrative that you think. Only 30.1% of our fellow Minnesotans want our current abortion regime where abortion is legal up until the moment of birth without any limitations.
That's a minority.
And I have to say, I wonder if that 30% would be whittled down if they really, Grace is so good at confronting people with the reality of what abortion is. So our goal now is for Grace to have a conversation with each of those people within that 30% of Minnesotans who are 100% pro-abortion.
For a minute there, I was like, is this a pro-life revolution?
It's currently October 6th. We've got till November 8th.
Let's go. I better drop out of school.
Yeah.
The
thing is, the mileage reimbursements you're going to get are going to be immense. She's going to go from Fargo to Rochester every day.
How about the lives saved, Moses?
Lives saved.
I don't really care about the mileage reimbursements.
No, that's exactly right. Grace she doesn't have a mercenary bone in her body. One day she offered to do this job for free, and I said, okay. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So getting back to the letter. Yeah, so
our producer is totally smirking at me right now.
We're pointing out to people that actually you think people are being browbeaten into thinking that people support, let's say, Tim Walz, who supports abortion up until the moment of birth, and people think that's the position most Minnesotans have because it's a purple state, et cetera, et cetera. No, only 30% of people share that view, if that, and 68% want to see abortion limited in Minnesota. And it's just crazy to me, Grace, that we're having to have this conversation.
I know. And you know what else is crazy to me? You kind of touched on it briefly, but have you seen all of the misinformation that Walz's campaign is spreading? All those ads against the Republican nominee for governor who who says he's pro-life. These ads that the Walz administration is putting out, it's of these women who are supposedly post-abortive, and they're like, it's like a 6-second shot, and it's like super sad music, it's dark lighting, and they're like, I had to have an abortion, and without an abortion, I would have died. Don't let Jensen win for governor.
Yeah.
And then it's like, donate to Walz's campaign, blah, 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 blah.
I have to tell you about one I saw. I thought this was one of the most deceptive things I've seen. It was a woman, and she said, after my rape, this is how it started. After my rape, I knew that if I was pregnant, I needed an abortion. Cut. And I thought, okay, all right, so here's what's going on. She was raped, and that's horrible. She's a survivor of rape. That is a horrible thing. Get pregnant. That's clear
exactly.
from the context of the ad.
Right.
She did not have an abortion. Abortions in the case of rape are vanishingly rare.
Right.
Everyone knows that, except you hear about it so often in the media that it seems like it's happening every day.
Right. But the thing about these ads is it's so medically inaccurate, right? Because abortion is never medically necessary to save the mother's life.
Thank you.
As we've talked about before, you guys can go back and listen to our podcast episodes on that. Yeah. But it's never a medical necessity. Preterm delivery is different than abortion because the object of abortion is always to directly and intentionally kill a child. But that's not the case in a preterm delivery. And so it's so deceptive, and they're airing these with all this sad music, and it's 6 seconds before any, I see it so much. I hear it on the radio. I hear it everywhere.
Oh, my gosh.
What?
Sorry, finish your sentence. I just thought of something really cool that our people need to hear about.
It's just really... It's the misinformation that Moses is talking about. And then you look at the stats in these polls, and you're like, wait, most of Minnesota doesn't actually believe this. And also, think how sad it is that these women are being manipulated by the media and by the Walz administration, too. Yeah. Because, again, like you said, that one woman who said that she was raped, which is so sad, they just cut her story off. They didn't actually... And then they're like, oh, let me use this for our messaging and twist it, Well,
it cut, and then it come back to her saying... Scott Jensen,
Yeah,
so
blah, blah, blah.
It just didn't talk about the rest of her story. Absolutely using her. Honestly, she was used.
Yeah. Anyways, you were saying.
So I'm sorry that I interrupted you. It's so hard when someone interrupts you with something really excited, and then they're like, oh no, but you finish what you were saying. Now that's what I did to you. I'm sorry, but I wanted to tie this story up with a bow and put it under the Christmas tree.
Oh boy.
So that I can tell you about something even cooler. So. I'll just tell you, this is what we said to candidates. I'll just, and this is on our blog. You can read this. You can share this maybe with family members who are dealing with this issue.
It's a quote from me. Women deserve better.
Minnesota women deserve better than abortion. I definitely take cues from Grace on some of these things when we're talking about how to communicate with this issue, especially with women who think that they need abortion. We need to counter that. So basically, we're telling Minnesota voters this is a message that we know that most people agree with. One, abortion isn't a real solution. Minnesota women deserve better. On a side note, that's why 68% of Minnesotans want to see it limited or banned entirely.
You should talk about those ads we're running, too.
That is what I was going to.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because that's really important, and they're all live now.
Yes, they are. Okay, so then second, the Minnesota Supreme Court has said that there is a right to abortion through the Doe v. Gomez decision, but abortion is not one of the inalienable rights granted to Minnesotans and Americans by the text of the Constitution itself. And three, our opponents on this issue support abortion until the moment of birth with no limitations. That is an extreme position not shared by most Minnesotans, and it must be countered with the truth. So that's the letter that we sent, Grace, and we've already had several responses from candidates and current office holders.
That is so good to hear.
Thanking us for taking the stance, and we're hopeful that it will help them as they have conversations with voters. But that's not the only thing we're doing to counter this false messaging.
About our new campaign.
Yeah, we are spending
Silent No More, right?
We're partnering with the organization Silent No More, and we're doing a series of TV ads on abortion regret. So we're talking to real women who have had one abortion, or actually in these cases, most of them have multiple abortions and now regret it. And those ads are running on cable TV, and they're running on YouTube. You can see the ads yourself and learn more, and also get resources for if you are post-abortive or if you know someone who is, by going to mfc.org/abortion harm. And we are spending a six-figure sum on these ads. Like we're really putting our skin in the game to change the narrative about abortion in the state.
And it's because it's so needed, because like we're talking about, we have those ads from Tim Walz's administration.
Exactly.
And they're just manipulating the narrative, but we're coming here and we're saying, actually, here's what's really at stake. Here are the stories that Minnesotans need to hear.
Yeah,
here's
and that
the
they
truth.
Won't get from the media.
And where there's life, there's always hope. That's the message that we are broadcasting. So I'm super excited. When you told me that we were able to do that, I was thrilled. So.
Yeah, honestly. And I'm also really grateful to Jack, who's behind the camera this week, who filmed those ads and did an incredible job. So that's some of the things that we're up to as we approach the last stretch coming into the election. But I wanted to ask you, Grace, about the banquet for our allies at Pro-Life Action Ministries. So tell me what went down.
It was a great event, Moses. I love going to their event every year. We missed you, by the way. I wish you could have been there. But it was so good. This keynote speaker was the CEO of 40 Days for Life, Sean. So he did an excellent job. And I want to share a few high points of his message after I discussed a few other things, because it was really compelling, and it was a lot of things I already knew. But I was talking to Renee Carlson of True North Legal, and she was saying, I knew what he was saying, and it wasn't new stuff, but it was really powerful. And that's how you know that the speaker's good. Right. Is if he's saying what you already know, but you're still interested the entire time.
Absolutely,
So, and it was great to see Representative Tim Miller, who we work closely with, who's leading the fight for life in different cities throughout Minnesota. And I just love our allies there. So great event. And got to network with a lot of different people, and it was pretty packed too. So
that's so
encouraging.
Cool.
Yeah. So when I drove up, beautiful fall day, sun was shining, and I noticed a bunch of police cars on my way, down one of the roads that was coming up to it, a bunch of them. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, maybe there was an accident or something. Turns out they were all positioned. I think 4 or 5 of them were positioned because there were a bunch of pro-abortion protesters outside, which that has never happened before. I've been to this banquet, I think this is my 3rd time.
Yeah.
And never has that happened. But, of course, it's because of what just happened with Roe being abolished, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's riled up. So I pulled up and I saw the signs and everything, and I noticed, actually there's some pro-life protesters here too, countering the pro-abortion activists. Excellent. So they were on either side, and then the police were watching to make sure everything was fine.
Right.
So I parked, and it was so light outside, so I just walked past and got a video, kind of, and maybe I'll insert that in a minute so you guys can see. And then I went inside and I said hi to some people, and I asked Representative Tim Miller to come out with me and be kind of my bodyguard, if you will, and also video it because he's great at that, and he's tall, intimidating guy. He's really nice.
Yeah.
But he can be intimidating, right? So
definitely.
I didn't want to go out there by myself.
Yeah.
And just in case it got violent. So
yeah, and you took the loudspeaker with you, didn't you?
Well, actually, here's the story. So I'm gonna roll the clip right now of just the video of what the crowd looked like.
Cool.
Rolling now.
Free abortion on demand. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Free abortion on demand.
It's not free, moron. It's not free.
Can we do it? Yes, we can. Free abortion on demand. Can we do it?
Okay, so you just saw the video clip of me walking past, and that was without anyone with me. And then I went and confronted them because I really wanted to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm all about the conversations, and I think, if we can dialogue back and forth, that's really where hearts and minds are changed, right? It's not by just chanting things or yelling at people, right?
Yeah.
It's actually by discussing things. So let's go ahead and roll the clip of me attempting to talk to the pro-abortion activists.
Okay.
I'm on. You're on.
Let's see if I get a touch.
Anybody?
Nobody has an answer.
I didn't
How
think
is
so.
it not murder? Nobody can answer that question. I gave them a chance to explain it to me. But they don't know.
How come you're here today?
I'm here because I'm pro-life, and I believe that every baby deserves a chance to take a baby's breath.
Coming from the people that are actually
You
killing
guys
people.
are a joke! You guys are a
How
joke!
come you're here today?
Abortion is murder!
I work for Pro-Life Action, man.
Abortion is murder!
Let's see if we can have
Coming
a
from the
conversation.
people that actually want to kill people. You guys are morons.
A bunch of men
I'm gonna have a
standing there.
conversation. Okay. Does anyone have a conversation about your position? Why not? For your social media. Oh, okay. Because you know that you're wrong.
Oh! Boom!
Yeah, look, they're trying to have a conversation and they can't even.
I would be happy to have a conversation with
Free
any of you
abortion
guys.
on demand. Can we do it?
Yes, we can.
Free abortion on demand. Can we do it?
Looks like they don't want to talk.
Abortion on demand.
We just got roasted.
They don't want to talk because they don't know what they're talking about.
Pull the trigger. Free abortion on demand. Can we do
Okay.
it?
So no one wants to have a conversation with
On
me?
demand. Can we do
No one can answer?
Can we do it? Yes, we can.
That is the logic of the pro-abortion movement, you guys. They don't ever have an answer, and they never want to have a conversation because they know that they're wrong.
Can we do it? Yes, we can. Free abortion on demand. Can we do it? Yes,
Okay,
we
thank you.
Can we
Okay,
do it?
well, we tried to talk. Unfortunately, didn't work because they're too afraid to talk to us. But the pro-life revolution is here.
You can do that.
Okay, so Moses, funny you mentioned that I grabbed the megaphone. So they're actually, or the bullhorn, or whatever you want to call it. It was someone else was actually holding it, one of the pro-life protesters, and when he saw me walk up, first someone asked me if they could interview me. They were like, "Why are you here?" It wasn't the media; it was just a random citizen. And I was like, "Sure, I'm here because I believe that every child deserves a chance to take his first breath." My typical 3-second spiel.
Yeah.
And then one of the pro-lifers was like, "Hey, do you want my bullhorn?" And I was like, "Sure, thanks," because it was really loud. It was hard to hear. And the pro-life people were also chanting things, and I was like, "Guys, can you just for a minute so I can kind of see if I can talk to them?"
Yeah.
And so I walked up to the pro-abortion protesters, but I made sure to leave some space just so that it wouldn't get too,
absolutely.
give them their space. And I said, "Hi, does anyone want to have a conversation without abortion? I'd be happy to talk to any of you." And I looked them straight in the eyes, and immediately they're like, no, and one girl was like, "What, so you can post it on your social media?" And I was like, "Why, are you afraid of something? Is it because you know you're wrong?"
Oh,
and
yes.
Then the pro-lifers on the side were like, "Oh, owned by facts and logic."
Yes.
And they're like, no. And so I just stood there for a minute, and I was like, does anyone want to talk?
Yeah.
And no one wanted to talk. They started chanting like abortion on demand, and other things. And so
I did notice in the video that most of the protesters were male.
I know.
I'm not sure if that means anything.
well,
but
my friend Alicia from Students for Life, she actually mentioned that because she was at the event too,
Okay,
and then she
cool.
watched the video back and posted it on her page, her Students for Life page, and she said, "No, almost all of these are men that are not willing to talk to a woman about abortion. What happened to, like,
isn't
no
that the
uterus,
most
no
cowardly
opinion?"
position of all?
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, okay, I won't say that, but yeah, it's very ridiculous. So that was.
Grace self-censoring live on the Family Beacon podcast.
Well, I've said something like that before, and you're like, "We have to cut that out."
Okay, let's keep moving then.
Okay, but so anyways, I just want to make the point that this happens to me a lot. Like at the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Yeah.
I remember that I went and tried to talk to some people, and the same thing happened. Like, they're not interested in having a conversation most of the time. And I mean, these are the activists. These aren't people that kind of passively hold the beliefs. But it's interesting that the pro-abortion activists never want to have a conversation, at least in my experience, and all the pro-life ones do.
Yeah.
And I think it shows that they know that there's something wrong with their position, and then they know that they can't defend it. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. I don't mind I wouldn't mind if a pro-abortion person walked up to me and was videoing it. I'd be like, sure, you want to post it on your social media? Great.
Yeah.
Get ready for the pro-life position to be made clear.
Yeah.
So also just that point that, like, in our culture, we've honestly lost the art of having a conversation when we're so polarized. And yeah, we've lost that. And so really we aren't, like, in a sense, we're in a war of words, so to speak, because it's these euphemisms that are being brought up, but we're also just, like, in a war of ad hominems.
Right.
Ad hominems meaning if you don't have a good argument to support your position, you're just going to attack the other person.
Right.
And that's ultimately what a lot of pro-abortion people have done to me when they not physically yet, just verbally.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I try to have a conversation with them. So
God forbid that they ever attack you physically. That would be horrible.
I have gotten death threats, but those are always, like, online, not in person.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's very easy to send a death threat.
Yeah. So that's
online.
the summary of the little activism
Cool.
there.
That is so cool, Grace.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you are being a witness for life, that you did not let these people go unchallenged. I just, like,
Thanks.
I did not know that Grace was doing this, and then you sent me a clip. No,
you saw it on my personal
I just
social
saw it on
media.
your social media, and I was like, that is so Grace. Just the
so funny.
amount of confidence that she displayed on that video, just sidling up to them with a loudspeaker and just challenging them, like,
thanks.
to, like, basically, like, she's like, anybody want a duel? No, I guess you're all fakers, you know.
A bunch of people DM'd me when I saw that, and they were like, "Oh, like, how do you look so calm and confident? Like, you look so relaxed." And I was like, "Well, I had Representative Miller right beside me."
Plus, you're basically just born to do that.
Thanks, thank you. I want to share briefly though about the message of the night too, because that was really inspiring. Again, he had some really good one-liners. I'll share two of them.
Yeah.
One was the pro-life position is that we are not mutual funds. We don't get more value over time. Mic drop. So good. So basically the idea that, you know, as we grow and as we develop, it's not like we increase in value. It's from the moment of conception we have, like, the ultimate value of the Imago Dei.
Right.
And that continues into, like, that continues throughout our entire life.
Right. Absolutely.
And then his other good one-liner was, they did not overturn Roe v. Wade. They beat it with a baseball bat.
Oh, yes.
So good. He was like, if any of you have read the decision, you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
So that was great. And then he said that one of the reasons that we won with Roe is because before Roe, things got really ugly in the debate. The extremists on abortion, they didn't do what Bill Clinton did years ago. What Bill Clinton did is he came out and he was like, I don't like abortion. You don't like abortion. America doesn't like abortion. It should be safe, it should be legal, and it should be rare.
Yeah.
But then the party completely flip-flopped on their, like, position. They became very radical. They celebrated abortion.
Mm-hmm.
They lit up skyscrapers in baby colors, as I've shared before.
Yeah.
And that was actually good for
Shout
America.
your abortion.
Right. And that was good for America because America saw the pro-abortion extremism.
Yeah.
There was no longer this veil of, oh, we don't actually like it, but it should be available in certain cases, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was a good point, I thought. And then this is, like, the last thing I want to say is so powerful. The way he said it was so good. You can just tell he's, like, a natural speaker. He said, it was America who legalized abortion up to 40 weeks. It was America who spread this atrocity across the globe. It was America who had this atrocity codified into law for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was America who, after 50 years, ended abortion and sent shockwaves across the entire world.
Absolutely.
So good. And
I love that.
He said the world is watching us now. There's a reason why the Ireland March for Life wants American speakers. It's because we just overturned something that was codified for 50 years.
Yeah.
And they just unfortunately legalized abortion, which they're very disheartened by. But they see, oh, America, which was very entrenched in abortion, was able to overturn a terrible ruling.
Yeah.
We have a hope. And so I think that's so true and so powerful is that we are a beacon of hope. We are a nation that everyone watches, quite literally. We are, like, if it's happening in America, people are watching.
We're sorry.
Right?
We're sorry that you have to watch our
Right.
TV and our crime. And
Yeah, and our
so
presidential debates.
Oh, gosh.
Honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
So embarrassing. But yeah, so the world is watching. We're winning on life, and we're going to keep winning as long as we keep the pressure on. And we will
Amen.
keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
So great message. Loved it. And it was super good to meet
That's
him.
really inspiring.
Insert a
That's
picture
awesome.
of me with Sean and Renee here. Anyways, yeah, so it was a great night. Loved going, and super glad I was able to talk to people, even some pro-abortion protesters, even though they weren't super interested.
Yeah.
So, Moses, talk
They
a lot
were
about...
maybe interested, but also just more afraid.
Yeah, maybe so. So we've talked a lot about pro-life activism, which is great. Of course, my favorite topic. We, however, also need to talk about something that went down in White Bear Lake with gender-neutral bathrooms, in an elementary school.
Yeah, so this is a topic we've talked about a little bit, about the push toward gender-neutral bathrooms, the push toward use any bathroom that you want. And it's really sad to see that elementary school kids in White Bear Lake, Minnesota are being, that this is being foisted on them. So this was flagged by our friends at the Center for the American Experiment, first of all. And so a new elementary school was built actually in Hugo, White Bear Lake School District. And they had gender neutral, quote, privacy bathrooms with common areas for hand washing. There's no longer anything that's marked girls or boys. This is for grades K through 5. And the state, this is not state law per se, but the school district has a policy where they basically aren't going to have any gendered bathrooms because that's not inclusive for transgender students. So what happened? Well, guess what? This is not a good thing. And the people who are hurt by this the most are girls, young girls. And I actually just saw, separate from the story, completely separate, I saw someone post on Nextdoor in my neighborhood. Well, it was technically in my neighborhood. It was technically not in my neighborhood, but it was in I think it was in East St. Paul or possibly outside of St. Paul in the Maplewood, but a school in that area, so not a million miles from White Bear Lake, was they were talking about this problem at the high school. So they have a policy where anybody can use whatever bathroom, and guess what? Boys are congregating in the women's bathroom to the extent that female students don't feel safe using it.
Probably because they're not.
Yeah, because boys are hanging out in there. High school boys, presumably they're smoking pot or whatever it is that they were doing in the boys' bathroom, and now they're just doing it in the women's bathroom, or the girls' bathroom, I should say. So it hasn't gotten that bad in White Bear Lake. We're talking about elementary school kids, but what we are talking about is that the bathrooms are filthy. The bathrooms are filthy, and so up until now, we've had a system, as the Center for the American Experiment points out, where girls and boys have had separate areas to use the bathroom, and that's really important because of various differences between boys and girls, and one of those is mess. So we have a mother in the White Bear Lake district who says that that young girls are going the whole day without using the restroom because it's too gross.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's so nasty. Honestly, ew.
Yeah.
That's just like it. Yeah, ew. No one wants to be around the guy's mess.
Right.
Ew.
So the mom talked to the school and they said this isn't any worse than the old policy. That's just not true. Now, any bathroom can be dirty, but if girls have a bathroom to themselves, we all know it's less likely to be filthy. We just know that to be the case. Guys, this is just the cleanliness issue. That is just the tip of the iceberg as to why gender neutral.
I'm just scarred for life just hearing about this. Like, I can't imagine being a child and having to go through that.
Yeah, I know. Ew. I know. It just like, it's sick. You know, I cleaned bathrooms for McDonald's when I was in high school, and I can tell you. Yeah. You
worked for McDonald's?
I did.
Was that your first job?
Yes, it was. And I could tell you then. I could tell you when I was 15 and a half.
My brother's first job too, and he was like so proud of it. He was like, I work at McDonald's.
I remember when he got that job.
He still has a photo of it on his Instagram of like the McDonald's sign, and he thinks it's so cool. Oh.
Well, hey, started from the bottom, now we here, as they say.
What, corner office? Oh, wait.
Right, not quite. But so honestly, the cleanliness issue, wow, that was really nasty.
Sorry,
Grace
guys.
just cracked her neck. Oh man, I hate that sound. I crack my neck sometimes, but that was loud.
That was intense, man. Okay.
Did you hear about the guy who cracked his neck and then had a seizure?
No.
Yeah, so don't do that. No, I just It's
okay. Our producer will make that into like a reel or something.
that is a risk. I cracked my neck too, but you just have to accept the risks.
Happen?
Yeah, he lived. Yeah, he's fine. But But yeah, it was like no, he had a stroke. That was what it was. Yeah, but
even
it was a
worse.
very minor stroke.
Okay.
So
Wow.
basically, the point made by the Center for the Human Experiment that we want to echo is that the unintended consequences of this idea that we need to be inclusive towards this tiny, minuscule group of students is hurting everyone. It's hurting everyone, but especially it's hurting young girls. Just as with athletics, so with bathrooms. So we don't want that in Minnesota. We want everyone to be healthy and safe, and use a restroom that's safe for them to use. And this policy is not cutting the mustard for kids in White Bear Lake.
Great points. Yep.
And that's just sad to see. It's sad to see a literal case study of what we've talked about before, the problem with the whole idea of gender inclusion.
Yep. So we're drawing near the end of our episode, Moses, and I love hearing what you're reading. I love talking about what we're reading. I want to hear what you're reading. Maybe I'll start with what I'm reading.
Yeah, tell me.
I'm reading. I saw that you read this, so I'm excited. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, so
a
good.
Classic. Actually, the writing style is pretty good. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. But
It's fun.
I thought it was
It's
good.
so funny.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm only about 30% through it so far, so pretty short. I'm also reading Introducing Moral Theology, True Happiness and the Virtues. You probably read that in college, honestly.
No, I haven't.
No? Okay, it's by a Catholic Pope? Not Pope. Priest, sorry.
Who? What's his name?
Madison, William C. Madison III.
I can tell you he wasn't the Pope.
Yeah, he wasn't a pope. I was trying to think of like the term for pastor for Catholics, and
Priest.
Yeah, priest. So he's a priest. It's very good. It's a lot. I really liked After Virtue by Alistair McIntyre, but it was just very heady. I liked his points. He was just very dense, but
Alistair McIntyre, also not the Pope.
Right. Madison is better in that he's less dense, and he still makes really good points about similar stuff. So that's really good. And then I just finished The Color Purple by Alice
Oh, really?
Walker. Have you read that?
I know. I've heard of it.
So I read it because it's referenced so much in literary dialogue. And so I thought, okay, I got to read it just so I know what it's about.
Yeah.
And it was pretty tragic, pretty grotesque. And it reminded me of Beloved by Toni Morrison. I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't. I've heard of it.
Okay, that is very scarring. Very, 1 star, honestly.
Well, okay. All right. Let me push back on that. I haven't read this. But if it's scarring, does that necessarily mean it's bad? If it's dealing with really bad subject matter, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
I get that. No, I agree. But the thing is, it was just there was some really whacked up stuff where it made it hard to understand what the points even were, because it was trying to make a point about memory, about imagination, about trauma, and about slavery, and about racism. Points about that, but the storyline was so bizarre. It wasn't a true story. The storyline was so bizarre that it was so confusing to even understand the points that the author was trying to make.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it, the main character is mad in that book, and she's mad because she, if I remember right, she killed her own daughter out of grief because she thought she was saving her baby. She murdered her baby because she didn't want her baby to be a slave. Mm-hmm. And there's this scene of it's in detail of how she killed the baby, the blood and everything.
No, stop,
I'm telling you.
Stop.
But this is what I'm telling you. It isn't that there were dark themes. It was that it didn't make sense. And then the baby came back reincarnated as an old woman and came to the house and haunted the house.
Okay, so Benjamin Button meets a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, it was
it does sound pretty bad.
Very odd. So it reminded me of that. This one was better. I give it 3 stars. Again, it deals with heavy subject matter, and I think that's commendable. But the way it was, it's about a girl who was raped by a man who claimed to be her father. Surprise, that person wasn't her father.
Oh, snap.
She then had 2 of his children. He then gave away those 2 children. At least she didn't kill the children, right?
Oh.
And then he married her off as a child bride. And then she discovers throughout the book, she discovers that she's lesbian? ? So it's plot twist.
This is The Color Purple? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's
did not know that. I hear about this as this classic in American literature.
No, it's very weird. It's an exploration of her lesbianism halfway through the book. And then another problem with it is it's very pantheistic, meaning she sees God in everything. So a quote is, "Dear God, dear stars, dear trees, dear sky, dear peoples, dear everything, dear God." That's how she thinks of God.
Okay.
So very weird book.
Can I say pantheistic lesbianisms?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Would be kind of a great band name.
But I gave it 2.5. I give it 2.5 stars because it is better than Beloved, because it does get the point across about, it's less about racism, it's more about like abuse and trauma, and I think that is like, those themes are more evident than in Beloved, because in Beloved it's just like, what is going on? There's this old woman who's also the baby that was murdered by the mom, by the, like what?
Wow.
So anyways,
Yeah.
don't really recommend. I'm glad I read those books just because they're referenced a lot, so now I can be like, yeah, I read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, too
Okay.
many
Wow,
pages devoted to
snap.
the lesbianism. Honestly, I was like, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Good heavens.
Yeah. So what are you reading?
Okay, well, I'm not gonna brag, but I did finish 5 books since the last time.
Let's go.
Or maybe like actually 6 books since the last time we did
What's
the podcast.
your goal
but
for
it's
the
been,
year?
My goal is 40 books for the year. I'm at 29. And guys, here's the
My
thing.
goal
I realized.
is 50. I'm at like 40.
Oh wow, snap!
think.
You're ahead of me. That's kind of
Maybe it's
embarrassing.
37. But I'm in school, so I feel like that.
Well, I'm speeding up because here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speeding up because I want to meet this goal. And I know this is dumb, but it's giving me, like, meeting my Goodreads goal is a dumb reason that gets me to read more books, which is
Yeah.
good. So
It's a thing.
the first book I read, and I honestly, I really did specifically pick very short
I'm like
books.
pulling up your profile.
I picked short books because I wanted to.
So Benjamin Button was one?
No, actually
I haven't
not.
read that yet.
I haven't either. But
okay.
so one of them was very short. I'm gonna ask Jack to bleep the title. It's called "On Bullshit" by Harry Frankfurt, and it is a very short book about bullshit. It is actually really good. It's very short. It's to the point of honestly, it's like. I'm not even sure I can recommend it because it's so short. It doesn't really get into the point that he makes, but basically the point, the key insight is that BS is farther from the truth than lying. If someone is BSing you, they are further from the truth than liars.
Wait, I just read your review on Heart of Darkness. That is so true.
Right?
That is so true. Read
Yeah.
it for them.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Maybe we're too nerdy.
So
but-
so Heart of Darkness. Honestly, this is a famous book, guys, and Grace and I sounds like have both read this, and this is I finished this yesterday, or was it this morning? I don't remember.
Did you like Moby Dick?
It was okay. It was better than this. So this is my review, 2 stars. One of those books that after finishing, you rush to Google to see if you missed something because what was there was pretty vacuous and unimpressive.
Me with the Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's just, this is supposed to be great literature, though. That's the thing.
True.
So I basically said it was Moby Dick without the whale. It's like there's
Facts.
nothing that happens.
I know.
Like they go up the river and then they come back. And yeah, there's all this stuff going on. It's also like the classic definition of they tell writers show, not tell when you're writing.
Yep.
Conrad's Heart of Darkness is
Oh, I
the reason
hate
why they tell people that, because Conrad's Heart of Darkness is all telling and no showing.
I just had an idea for you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's not really on this. You know how you need to hit your Goodreads goal? What if you just read your daughter Mary a bunch of kids' books, and then you can be like,
No.
Read.
I have added kids' books to Goodreads in the past, but only if they're substantial. They have to be substantial.
Okay.
So I will be adding this children's Bible that I'm reading through with her. So I'll be adding that.
Blue cover?
It's the Jesus Storybook Bible.
Okay.
It's the most well-known one as far as I'm aware. So the other books I read very quickly, Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman
Was it
Capote.
good?
Nope, it was pretty bad.
Oh, okay.
The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy, which is
Super
one of the
good.
best books I've ever read.
I love.
Hammer of God by Bo Geertz, which I've talked about when I started it. Now I finished it. It was amazing.
Leo
Honestly,
Tolstoy
it's
is our
up-
greatest living writer. I will not be taking questions at this time.
I thought that was funny.
I love it.
So, The Hammer of God by Bill Geertz, everyone should read it. It is a novel about the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is so good. And then finally, Heart of Darkness. So,
Let's go.
Yeah.
You're thriving.
I'm
You're in your
moving
thriving
quickly.
era.
And the next thing I'm going to read is White Album by Joan Didion.
Never heard of it. Should I?
Yeah, Joan Didion is a famous American essayist. She died relatively recently. She's a very good writer. I read one more of her books. The other super famous collection of essays, and then she has some really famous books, which you've probably heard of, but I can't remember the names of them. So that is what we're reading here on the Family Beacon. Next week, we will be telling you guys about our voter guide, which will be live by the time you hear from us again. And we're really excited about that as we approach the election on November 8th. Get ready. Remember, early voting has already started, so you can head to the polls either in person
Vote
or absentee.
pro-life, you guys. Vote
and
pro-life.
make sure to vote pro-life this election. That is even more than normal the key issue this election. So from Grace and I, we're so grateful that you tuned in to watch The Family Beacon or listen to it, and we hope that you have a great rest of the day. Get the facts, stand for truth.
Thanks for listening to or watching this episode of the Family Beacon podcast from Minnesota Family Council. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you're up to date on life, family, and religious freedom. You can follow us on Instagram at MN Family Council and subscribe to us on YouTube to watch our content. Get the facts, stand for truth.